or they were hooked into my Google Plus, which is like Facebook for Google, they would see that Gary's presenting right now, and they could watch and listen if they wanted to. So I'm going to get that out of the way. All right, so is everybody here in a Google account? Is anyone not? Okay, so if you're not, so at the moment, because the BMCC one is so new, I was hoping to set that up for you now, but I can't yet. I would recommend setting up a personal account. It's free and easy. And so here, if you just, for example, click on Gmail, you can just go through create an account and then just fill out that form and you'll instantly have an account. Anybody else not have an account that needs one? So that'll allow you to play along. So here I'm in my personal account. I'm also logged into Chrome, which is different than being logged into Google. And I know I'm logged into Chrome here because there's a little tag up here that has a name I gave myself. So this account I call Coach. I have another account I call Gary. I have another account I call New Gary, and another account I call BMCC Gary. So unfortunately, I have like a split personality on Google, but they all have different roles. So for years, I've been using this account called Coach for BMCC business. So I do a lot of class work through this account here. Fortunately, now I can switch over to this account here, which is going to be much better. When you're logged into your Google account, you'll know you're logged in because there'll be some icon over here that says you're logged in. If otherwise, what you get is a little sign-in button there instead of the little symbol for you, whatever your symbol is, whether it's a letter or a picture of you. I don't know how many people in their Google account have clicked this cute little square button up here. Most people. So that gives you access to Google Apps, and depending on your account type, you'll see different apps there. You can also move those around into an order that's more convenient to you. Like lately in this account, I use Drive and YouTube more than anything, where in some of my other accounts, like if I switch to my new BMCC account, homepage, the apps will be in a different order. Okay, so anybody need a hand checking out where I'm at now? So you're still setting up a Google account. We'll get yours. Yeah, choosing a name is the hard part. Yeah, like finding one that exists. I was lucky. I got a friend of mine who works in the computer industry emailed me, said, "Hey, Google's launching a new email program." When they first did it, and they said, "We'll get you in on the test run." And so I was able to get my real name, Gary Parker, early on. And the good thing about that is I'm Gary Parker at Gmail. The bad thing about that is there's a ton of other Gary Parkers in the world who put a middle initial or something else in there. And when they give people their Google account, that middle initial gets left out all the time. So I get the email of many other Gary Parkers. All right, how's it going? You're still trying to get set up there? Hey, you got an M. You're in.
Yay, thanks, Gary. This guy's amazing.
All right, thanks for helping. Okay. So just let's play here for a sec. So there's different apps in your account, and you can click more, and that'll give you more apps in that quick option window. And then you can click at the bottom again, even more from Google. And Google has just a ridiculous amount of programs that you can play with, all related to, like a lot of people just say, hey, I just have a Gmail account. Well, a Gmail account has access to pretty much anything Google has made public, which is pretty nice. So it's overwhelming and amazing. Right, okay, so you're in your account. Okay, so just chill there for a minute. We'll take a look. Yeah, so I was hitting that. Did you hit that square button yet? Yeah, and you just poke around there. Good. I have a question for me at the moment. They're all good. Okay, so Away from the Google screen for a minute. So hopefully you have a tab on your computer somewhere that was pointing to that CS120 course in Canvas. Okay, so for those of you that are watching this in the future, hello future people. If you go to the math department website, math.bluecc.edu, I have a link there to open classes in Canvas. That link takes you to the classes that are currently available in Canvas. And I have some materials posted under CS80 Intro to Computers. And Module 2 has a bunch of Google stuff. So if Gmail is new to you, then I have a page here called Google Basic Tutorial Gmail there. And you can go check that out. And what I've done is I've looked at what pages out there. So if you search for help, Gmail, do this, you'll end up at one of these pages or a similar page. There's way more than I have linked there. But these were pages recommended by Google for people at various stages of using Google stuff. So if you're brand new to Google, then you're a green Google user. So if you're green, then you'd want to jump through these tutorials here. Now, I've been using Google or Gmail since it came out, and there are still things it does that I don't know about, mainly for two reasons. One, I have my habits, and I'm stuck in them, and the other is they're always coming out with new features, and I can't keep up with everything. So when I was setting this up over the last couple of weeks, and even last night, every time I found something new I didn't know. And if I look today, I'm going to find more stuff I don't know. So I don't know everything there is about all the Google apps and all the features of Gmail, but there's a ton of stuff here. So even if you've been using Gmail for years and you think you're a pro and people ask you questions all the time, there's going to be stuff here that you're like, oh, I didn't know you do that. So there's all kinds of stuff to play around if you want to learn more about Gmail or just get used to using your Gmail. So like you just want to go through here just to get the basic features down. So we got that there. Let's back up again. So if you go, Canvas takes some getting used to getting around in. So I'd recommend clicking back on the modules link in the second left menu here. Then I have a Google Tutorials for Drive. So Drive is their storage engine, right? So we're used to doing work on a computer and we save the computer to our hard drive on the computer, or we have a little flash drive plugged in. So Google gives us an alternative to that by having documents done online. And you can either upload documents from your computer or you can create them through Google's different applications. Yeah.
Just wanted to add to it too, which is really cool. If you've got a phone with a smartphone,
yeah,
and you have Google Apps connected there, and you want to scan a document, you can scan it with your camera to PDF. And you can just hold it there, and it goes right into your drive, and you can email it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Google has, for years, and many other companies, been working on optical recognition of stuff. And yeah, so you can use the camera on your phone with a Google app to scan over a document, and it will PDF it into your Google account, which is pretty amazing. So kind of like we put our stuff in our new fancy printers, welcome to your new fancy scanner, right? Your smartphone, which is pretty remarkable. So that, yeah, I've never tried that, but I was reading about that yesterday.
Oh, it's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I used it a bunch.
Okay.
It saved me in a pinch.
Yeah.
It's like I forget about it, and I'm like trying to find some elaborate way to scan a document. Like, oh yeah, my phone, duh.
Yeah.
And I
Because we have these scanning printers up here, but most people don't. But so many people, there's more. Actually, do you know there's more smartphones in the world today than there are people? Which is kind of frightening. I think that happened last year. So they're out there for use. I know, yeah. So I've got a tablet, a phone. It's connected to Google. I got 2 tablets, many computers, and they're all connected to Google, which is good and bad. So some other things I have posted here. I'll blow this up. I know you have this on your screen, but for the future internet audience here. So I have posted some tutorials for Google Docs, Google Spreadsheets, which I use a lot. I have a basic and an intermediate. I broke that up into 2 parts. Google Forms is pretty remarkable. If you need to get information from a bunch of people, Google Forms is pretty awesome. And Google Photos launched last year publicly, and that's an amazing app also that you can connect to a computer or a smartphone. And that's something that we could take a look at today too. So let's jump into the Drive tutorials for a moment. So I'm just going to point out a few key features of using Google, and then I'm just going to kind of wander around helping people learn what they want to learn today based on the tutorials I posted here. Anybody have a question for me at the moment? Okay. So again, if you're new to Google, Drive is their storage system online. And I have a bunch of tutorials here. Unlike the Gmail one, all the tutorials are on Google. The Drive, I pulled tutorials from two places. There's a website I like a lot that has free tutorials called GCF Learn Free. And so the first group of tutorials are from them. And my mother really loves those tutorials. So she's always calling me for computer help. She's been using computers longer than me, but for some reason there's something she doesn't get, and she's always calling me. And so and then the funny thing is, she's like, how do you know all this? And I'm like, well, while I'm talking to you on the phone, I'm looking at this tutorial online. I'll send it to you. So she can look it up after. But these are really super good tutorials here for Google Drive. And then the second group down here, these are Google's tutorials, which tend to be a little bit more terse, but they're great too. So I put those up there for people to grab. There's many more tutorials Google has than I've put here. If you're already a Drive user and you feel pretty competent, I highly recommend going down to the last option, Drive Tips. Every time I look in there, there's something I don't know. I learn. I was like, oh, cool. I didn't know we could do that. All right. So that's there for you to look back at. Back to your Google account, whatever tab that lives on. And if you're in your regular Google page, you have that little square icon in the upper right. You can use that to get to Drive. Or if you're on this huge list of Google products, Drive is somewhere in here. Where is it? There it is. So somehow find your way to Drive. Eventually. Okay. All right, so I'm in my new Drive account. You're in there?
I have things there I didn't know.
You didn't even know you had it? That's funny. Find Drive yet, Alex? Okay, it's further down. Okay, it's further down that list. All right, you found Drive. You get there. Okay, and then click the middle button. It'll actually take you in there. You're in there. You got, oh, the Getting Started is really good document we'll look at later. Okay, so so this is my new institutional account on this screen, and the other screen here, let's go to that one. This is my old fake institutional account, right? It's my personal account that I was using to do work stuff. So I have a lot of course things in here. Okay. So all of us that want to do work in Google, eventually we're going to want to put things in our Google Drive that are private to the institution, and so they really shouldn't be in a public account. If I have a document in here, like let's pick on, let's see, my CS120 here, and then somewhere I have a cute syllabus. And then maybe I want to share my cute syllabus with somebody in the room here. I'll go over what just happened there in a second, but I just want to show this quick. I can give people authority to look at this in a couple of different ways. One way is I could just call you by name, right? So I'm going to pick on David. David, give me a Gmail, a Google address you have.
DB Anderson.
DB Anderson.
At eou.edu.
eou.edu. Okay, and then I can add. So if it is a Google address, when I click away from it, it'll recognize it as a Google address. If it's not a Google address, it'll just stay look like a regular email. So notice it changed from what I had typed to his name and his profile picture. And then usually it's a good idea to send a note. I think you need this. And then right now, the default here was he can edit this document. Now, maybe David makes me a little nervous sometimes, as much as I want to share this with him, and I might just want to say, nah, he can just view it. Okay. Alternatively, I may need his feedback, but I don't really want him to edit it, so I could save that instead to can comment on it. So I have 3 different levels of sharing with an individual that I name. So that's one thing I can do. I'm going to put in can edit because I want to demo something there. And I'm going to send that over to him. So he'll get a notification in a minute through his Gmail. I've shared something with him. And also, if he goes to his drive and clicks shared with me, he'll see there's something new that was shared with him in this list. And it'll say Qt syllabus. So David, if once that pops up, which if you could go in there and then check it out. He's actually editing the document right now because I gave him permission to, and it's saying that David Anderson is editing it. And if I went in there and tried to do something like maybe change my office hour, on his screen, he's going to see that Gary Parker is editing it. Okay. So we both know we're editing at the same time, which is cool. Editing at the same time can be very dangerous, though. So like in one of my computer classes, I put 3 people on a document at once. And if they're doing stuff like putting images in, then that means they're pushing things in the document around. You know, so somebody's typing in a paragraph, all of a sudden their paragraph's off the screen. Where'd that go? So there are some things to get used to in there. Other things I can do with sharing a document with somebody is I can get a shareable link. Because maybe there's some people that need to get this and they don't have their address at the moment. So the shareable link is a way that I could put this out there for people to access. So ways I can deal with that. The default thing on this is only specific people can access is what it usually comes up to be. And then I can do other things like anyone with the link can edit. That's dangerous. So only use that if you really want the entire world to be able to edit the document. Now they have to find it somehow. How do they find it? Somehow they have to end up with that link. Okay.
Do they have to have a Google account to edit?
Yes, to edit you do. To view you do not. Yeah, so I could give somebody the view link. So this one right here, and anybody in the world. So my mom may or may not have a Google account. She can't remember. But if I send her this link, she will be able to check out the document, no matter what.
If you click on that, there's a more.
Yes.
Say that you can anybody that has the link can edit by changing the anyone no sign in required.
Yeah. So there's other things you can do, right? You can do that. So
whether
this.
they have Gmail or not.
And you can make it public on the web, which kind of makes it like a web page. So there's 2 ways to make a Google document like a web page. This is one of them. So for example, I have to work in Canvas now because the college acquired that program. I'm supposed to use it for my classes. I like editing in Google because I like all the features about sharing and I like their simple interface for doing things. Whereas, although I've been using Word forever, sometimes it has too many options for me and it's bothersome. So what I can do is I can have a document in Google. I can post a special link to it in Canvas, not copy and paste, because then I have 2 versions of the document to maintain, which is an awful burden. But I can embed it in Canvas so that Canvas is always looking at the Google document. Edits I make in Google will automatically appear in Canvas, okay, which is kind of neat. And I'll show an example of that in just a moment. And again, it takes getting used to these. So I'm going to leave this one for just a moment. I'm going to go to my institutional account to show you how the options are a little bit different there. So here I made a new folder last night. And I put another version of that Qt syllabus in here. Okay. This is a different document. I'm in a different account. Now, how did I get this document there? Well, my fake BMCC account, the coach one, shared it with my new BMCC account, and then I made a copy of it. Okay. the original document that was shared is still here. That's this one right here. That's the one David Anderson and I were both editing just a moment ago. Takes a minute to load all of that. See David Anderson still there. There's another Gary Parker there. So notice that there's two foreigners working on this document. This is a different Gary Parker here than the one that's viewing it. Just kind of weird. So when I shared this with Gary, it's not like emailing it. So how many people have emailed something somebody else needs to work on, right? I mean, we've been doing that for years, right? The problem with that is I edit it, I send it to you, you edit it, you send it to her, she edits it. Now we have all these different versions that need to be somehow merged together, which is quite challenging. So here, David, Coach Parker, and Gary Parker are all editing the same file. There's no difference. It appears in each of their drives. It looks like they own it, but they don't. If they check the information on the file, David would see, oh, this isn't mine. This is Gary's. I just have the ability to edit it. Okay. So that's just a different shift in the way we think about how we work with documents. And it can simplify life in a lot of ways for us when we have to collaborate with other people.
Gary, so you share that from the one from your map code?
Yeah, so what I had to do was in my other account, where's other accounts? Here. Just like I shared with David last night, I had to go into this coach account and say, please share this with Gary at BMCC so that he could work on it too. And then it just gets sent over there. It says, hey, Gmail will tell me and Drive will tell me that this has been shared with me. And then I can get into it. And again, it depends on the level of sharing what I can do with it. And that's another thing. It also tells me under shared with, if I click on that, it says this was shared with G. Parker at bmcconline.com. It was shared with David Anderson. And if I had shared with other people, they would all be listed there. And it would also tell me what level they can view it at. So for example, I work with a lot of high school teachers, and there's all kinds of things we have to share. So I'll often do it this way, because most of the high schools now have institutional Google accounts. So it's easier for us to collaborate with each other. Okay, let's get back to that other account. Okay, so I'm going to go to the share menu in this new account. And I'm going to click on the advanced one. And I want to change. Now notice I have a lot more options in the institutional account than I had in the private account. Let's see if I can blow that up a little more. Okay, I think that gets most of it there. So here, I could make it public on the web like I could before. I could share with anyone like I could before, or I could do specific people. But now I have two other options that didn't exist before. And these are super important because we have public documents, and some of them should not get outside of our institution, or private documents in our public institution. And so this gives me more of a way to say, hey, this is going to be shared internally, and there's a couple of ways I can share this document internally with people. Suppose that, I just want to share the link with anyone. Let me shrink that back down, or maybe leave it on specific people. And I just want to invite one. So I'm going to go to DB Anderson again. Was it EOU? And then I always do a message. I think that's just good etiquette for the message. New syllabus you need. And then I go send. It's going to say, hey, wait a minute. This person is not part of your institution. Are you sure you want to be sharing with them? So they give you a warning that you have an institutional account. It's up to you to exercise caution when you share stuff. And so they warn you. It doesn't exist in the private accounts, right? But the institutional account gives us that warning. So I have to stop, rethink. Is it really okay to share this document with that person? That was a good intention. So I click yes, but there may be times when I'm like, ooh, there's some people, maybe it was a whole list of people. Some people need the document to edit, some people don't, so I have to redo the way I was sharing it with them, share it in stages instead. So I'm going to click no. Nah, David doesn't really need that document. He's not part of my institution. I need to check on how I can deal with that. Other things, how many people do stuff and forget about it? Okay, right? So generally I send a copy to myself too, so I have a record somewhere that I did it. However, as you saw when I shared that other document, it keeps a record for me. It tells me who I shared with. Now, it might not tell me when I shared it, but it tells me who I shared with. Okay, so that's important too. So it does keep a record, but I like the email because it tells me when I shared this with me. Because somebody say, hey, you were supposed to send me that document last week, and I can say, hey, I did. Here's my evidence. So that's helpful too. Other things that are useful here, in a document that a lot of people are editing, we have a revision history that we can check out. And so we can go back through and take a look at who did what when. Now, for those of you that are used to keeping track of changes in Word, this is different. It's simpler, but it's different. So it takes some getting used to. It's not as granular as the details in Word for keeping track of changes, but I think it's sufficient. And they're always changing stuff in Google. So I haven't looked at the revision history on a document in probably 3 months since school got out. So my guess is there's some things that are different about it today than there were the last time I did it, because Google's constantly updating. But I can go in here and I can go and see what did David Anderson do, and it's going to color code it for me. I can go back to see, well, what was it like before David got in there? And I can say, I better restore this version. Okay. It added last year a show more details in revision, so I can click that, and it will get even more granular. Still not quite as detailed as the Word version gets, but it's more than sufficient for me. And so you'll have to get in and play around with it and see what you think. Okay. So that's a helpful thing too. Other things you can do with Google Docs, because some people don't like the detail involved in that part of the sharing and the revision history. Google also has a way that you can set up people to suggest edits to your document, which is slightly different than giving them edit capabilities. And then you can then look at those suggested edits and decide to merge them in or not. Sorry. So that's another feature that some people like, but not everybody needs. I put that in the tutorial about docs if anybody wants to check out that feature. All right, questions about the basic ideas of sharing? So the big takeaways from the sharing part is you can share to an individual, and you have 3 options for sharing an individual. Let them see the document, let them comment on the document, or let them edit the document. If you have an institutional account, which we'll have soon, hopefully today, then you get the detail of sharing within the institution or outside of the institution. Whenever you try to share outside the institution, you always get that warning message, okay, which is excellent. You can also change the way the world can see that document. If anyone in the world with the link can view it, if it's like searchable, like somebody could look it up on the internet eventually, or if you want it to be private, only selected people can view it. Okay. There's a third option that's for sharing that's not in the share menu. So I'm going to point that out here. And then I've got one more thing to show about docs, and then I'm just going to point out some more tutorials and just kind of wander around and help people. Let's see, where is it? Publish to the web. So this option is a little bit different, the publish to the web. It literally makes it a web page that is a Google Doc, which is a little different than having a public Google Doc. Okay? And the distinction's pretty subtle. The publish to the web would be useful. I mentioned earlier I have to use Canvas now. Canvas has a place to put a syllabus. But I would rather do my editing in Google, and I share classes with people and we collaborate on the syllabus. So having multiple copies in multiple places is a problem. So instead what I do is I take my syllabus who is shared, so say me and David are teaching this, and Greg maybe, and I say let's publish it to the web. If I'm going to put it in Canvas, I don't want students to be able to tell that it's a foreign, like click an extra link to get there. So in Canvas, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a secret window called an iframe, and the iframe will display the Google Docs, so they get this seamless view of it. Okay, and I'll show you an example of that in that Canvas course that I have set up. So all I do is say, okay, I want to embed it, and I'm ready to publish it. And Google says, are you sure you want to publish this document? And I say, yeah, I'm ready. And then it gives me the code that I need to give the Canvas to make it publishable. And all I do is copy and paste that into Canvas. Okay. The result will look like, I go back here, I've been logged off, let's log back in. And CS120, and pages, or maybe it's syllabus. Nope, that's right, pages. Syllabus. So here my syllabus is embedded in Canvas. And any changes I make in Google are reflected here. Now, it's not instantaneous. Google updates this every couple of minutes or so. So if I made a change right now, we wouldn't see it in Canvas for a couple of minutes. So it refreshes the public website version of this document regularly when I edit it. But that saves me the trouble of having to worry about managing documents in different places. And so that's what Google's been striving to do for years, is trying to say, well, how can we make things easier to manage for people? How do we take some of the trouble out of the way we've been doing things? And they keep getting better at it all the time. And like most stuff, we're always figuring things out. So that's a nice feature that for those of us that have documents that need to be public, but other people need to contribute to them, so we don't have to worry about managing things in different places. Okay. So that's a lot of stuff. If you're new to Google, back to the Canvas course here. Let's see, was there anything else? Oh yes, this one is important. So on my drive, so this is my new account. There's not much in it yet. Google gave me a little welcome PDF to scroll through with links to useful stuff. I am going to add something to my drive. And so I'm going to, let's see, do a file upload. And I've been working at BMCC for a long time. And so my documents folder is full of amazing stuff that I haven't looked at in years. Let's say I have an important administrative thing that I really need to put online. So let's put that in there. Okay. And I'm going to go to recent for a moment. So there's a couple of ways you can view your drive. They have this cute icon view, which is nice. I usually like over up here near the top on the left, I like the list view better. For some reason, my mind likes it, probably because I've been doing stuff like that on a computer forever. Most of my younger students like the other view better. But my mom likes this view better. Anyway. So notice that there's different icons here. So Google's letting me know that this right here is a Word document. Notice it has the docx extension on the end, which indicates it's a Word document. Extensions can be misleading, but usually they're not. If I click on that Word document, or double click it, it's giving me a preview of it. This is the Word document. It's saying, would you like to open it in Docs? When you take a Word document and you choose the option to open it in Docs, it makes a copy of the document, an editable one for Google Docs. It's showing me the title of it up here. Now, anybody see anything interesting about this title? It still says docx, right? This is no longer a Word document. It is a Google document. So I would recommend when you do upload a file to Google Docs, and it's a Word doc, and you do say, let's load it in Docs so I can edit it there, edit the title right away to take the file extension out. Otherwise, you'll get confused, and the other people that are sharing it will get confused. So I'm going to take that out, hit enter to save that change. If I go back to recent in the previous tab and go back to my drive, it'll update in a second. It's a little behind. But that'll disappear in a moment. You can see that this file has a different icon now. So even if I left the docx extension on there, let's do a refresh maybe. So now it's gone. I just refreshed it. It's really a Google Doc. So there's really a couple of things you need to pay attention to when you're looking at files in your drive. What icon does it have here? So this cute little blue line thing means it's a Google Doc. The W means it's a Word doc. Excel has, I think, like an E or an X on it. And it takes getting used to what those are. Does the extension always indicate what it is? Answer is no. Okay. Here's another caution. So let's see. This is my PLC meeting outline, and I'm going to upload a file. Anybody ever forget they did something? Right? I think we already went over that. Right? I'm always forgetting I did stuff. I don't even remember where I got that file now. Oh, admin, right, there it goes. And then, oh, there's that. Maybe I forgot I uploaded that file, so I'm uploading it again. So it's giving me a little note here at the bottom. Let's control minus. It says, hey, you already uploaded that. Do you want to keep it as a separate file, or do you want to replace that file? So last year they didn't have that warning message. So the downside was if you uploaded a file multiple times, you're just going to see multiple versions with the same exact name. Right? That's different than the hard drive on your computer, because if you try to save something with the same name on your hard drive of your computer, the computer won't let you. It says, do you want to overwrite this? So Google finally added that message this year saying, what are you doing? You already uploaded this. Is this a different version or the same exact version because it's got the same name? So just something to be cautious of. You'll usually get a warning. So how many people also, you get a little message flashes up on the screen, you really don't read it because you think you know what it says and you close it, right? So again, if it's a new software, or I've learned that Google changes things all the time, I should pause and read their messages because it might be different than I thought it was. So take a moment, read those messages. It could be helpful.
If you save it, if you say you're going to save it again, does it give you version 2? Does it save version 2, or does it just give you another one at the same time?
Let's see, keep as separate file. It gave it a different name. So it put that parentheses 1 thing like Windows does. So they took a page out of Microsoft's book and added that alteration to it there. No. So now I know it's a different file, even though they may be exactly the same file because they're the same size, but it's hard to tell. So just, there are options when you upload file. You want to be careful. You can't upload whole folders of stuff in there. And just like you use folders on your computer to organize things, you can use folders in Drive to organize things. And I do a lot of that also. So we can have folders within folders, and you can give people access to a whole folder. So for example, my CS80 folder here, if I, let's see, click on that, there's a couple things I could do. Since that's highlighted right now, I can go to the share button up here, and it gives me the same share options I would get as if it were a document, for example. I could give people edit privileges or view privileges. Since this isn't a document, comment doesn't make sense, so that's not listed. But as far as links go, advanced, change, I still have a variety of ways I can set up a shareable link for anybody for this document. So remember, when you have a document or a folder, you can have, so what I call these the global settings for the thing, versus when I'm back here, these are individual settings for how I'm sharing it. So you can share something globally or individually in there. So I'm going to click done there. Okay, I think those are the main things I just wanted to do an overview of. So now what I'd like to do, I'm going to probably stop the recording unless there's questions. what do you want to learn more about? Do you want to learn more about Gmail or Drive, using Docs, using Sheets, Google Forms, Google Photos? So I put links to the more common things people like to do. Hopefully, before you guys leave, I'll be able to get you accounts. Otherwise, I'll pass around a sign-in sheet, and then from that, I'll use your regular BMCC email address to prompt you for a new Google BMCC address. Note, so you'll get something like, and your name can be anything you want. You could do, like I have G Parker set up. I would prefer Gary Parker, right? So I have to go into my settings and add Gary Parker in there, and I'll do that later. So if you get a name you don't like when I set it up, we can always change that later. You can do what's called an alias. Doesn't matter what they type, G Parker or Gary Parker, it's all the same place. Unfortunately, at the moment, we can't alias this email account to your regular college email account. Main reason is this is Google and that's Microsoft, and those guys do not behave well together. And we can do it eventually, but we're just not ready to do that yet. So for now, it will be a separate account. Other things about this separate account, Google allows you to authenticate yourself to other services. So for example, I use images a lot in the work I do online, and there's a company called Pixabay that has open source images or freely licensed images that I can use without getting sued. So rather than making an account with a new username and a password I got to remember, they give me the option to sign in with Google, which is really nice. So you might see in a lot of places you go these days, do you want to sign in with Facebook or Google? Have you all noticed those links all over the place? So you could do that with this account. Caution, I wouldn't recommend doing personal things with your new college Gmail thing. So I would recommend only signing into services that are relevant to your college work. But with my other Google account, I use that for all kinds of services on the internet, so I don't have to remember another username and password. So the way that works is Google, the service will have that button, sign in with Google. You click that, then that organization connects to Google and tries to verify, like looking at your driver's license. Google is the driver's license verificator. It says, yeah, this is Gary Parker. We confirm that it is him. And then that company then will use Google to say you are who you say you are. So instead of using a username and password. Some people that makes nervous, giving Google control over logging into other services. Doesn't make me nervous. However, I am very security conscious. I change my Google password every couple of months to something weird that I have to struggle to remember for the first couple of weeks, or maybe it's on a little note in my wallet. Google also offers a two-step verification process for people that are really security conscious. So what that means is when you sign into Google, you have to enter your Google username and your Google password, and then they add an extra step in there where they send a verification code to your smartphone. You get that number off your phone, you type it into the little box when you're trying to sign in. So it's just another thing to verify you are who you say you are, so somebody else can't try to be you if somehow they get a hold of your Google name and your Google password. Okay? If they have access to your phone and your phone is unlocked, well then, I'm sorry, you're kind of screwed. So, moral of that story is use safe passwords. Have your phone always in lock mode with some secure way to get in. Never have a phone that's unlocked, especially if it connects to services that you use. Very dangerous. Because most people have passwords in something like Google, and it's the same password in their bank account, and they have a similar name that gives them access to the bank account. And so it's easy for somebody to run away with your life. So please, please, please use safe passwords and lock your phone. And I also have a tutorial somewhere in here about how to use that two-step verification with a smartphone if anyone's interested in that, to add extra security. And again, it is a problem. For example, I was in Hermiston last quarter in the spring, and I sat down one of the open lab computers while I was waiting to go into a meeting. And I'm usually really good at, if I'm in an account like Google, signing out, right? And then closing the browser. Well, somebody waved, hey, Gary, we're ready for you. And I was like, oh, great. And I just closed it and walked away. Half an hour later, I'm in the meeting, and my phone beeps, and there's this lewd message from myself. oh my gosh, I've been hacked. And so I walk out of the meeting trying to think, how did this happen? How did this happen? And I'm walking around the hallway in Hermiston, and I happen to look up at the open computers, and I see a young man sitting where I was sitting. And it hit me. I was just at that computer.
You go grab him by the neck.
So I walk over, and he quickly closes the browser when he sees somebody's behind them. And I could clearly see he was in Gary Parker's account. I was like, hey, what are you doing? Nothing. So we had a little chat, and I told him how illegal his activities were, and I said I wouldn't call the police this time, but I'm watching them. So anyway, I changed all my passwords, and everything was okay, but we need to be careful with those kinds of things. So Google is very secure. It's got a lot of features to help you keep secure, but the bottom line is if we do things we do, sometimes things can happen. So always be careful about logging out. So, all right, any questions about the major things I went over? We're out of time, aren't we? I talked too much. Oops. Okay, so you have that link through BMCC. You can get to these materials anytime. If you find something that's not in those tutorials and you're not sure what to do about it, come see me. I live in Emigrant Hall. I'll be glad to help anybody anytime with Google stuff. Sign-in sheet. I don't have any paper.
I do.
You do, thank you. If you could write your name on a piece of paper, either on your way out or as it comes around, I would greatly appreciate it, and I can set you up a Google account with the new institutional thing. So just give me your first name and your last name. That'll be sufficient.
I want to know how you scan with your phone.
Yeah, let's see. I remember seeing that tutorial. Was it under Google Docs tips, maybe? Not there.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
See you soon, I hope.
Yep. You're welcome. Okay, so it's under Drive tips. So if you, from those tutorials I had, if you go to the Drive page, at the bottom of the page is a link called Drive Tips. Yep, and then there's a scan documents to PDF tutorial there. You're welcome.
Thanks, Gary. In typical Gary Parker style, you are an amazing teacher.
Thanks. I hope you learned something.
Well, I did, and you make it so I don't feel so dumb. It's really good.
Yeah, so this could be really helpful with foundation stuff.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah, so you can put up viewable documents, like maybe a form a student needs to fill out.
Yes.
And if you have the viewable link there, a student could grab the viewable link and they could just say, make a copy of it. So they would have their own copy they could fill out and then share it with you.
Scholarship management,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, so there's lots of ways you can use that.
Expensive database, and I can see maybe saying different than I do, but I'll.
Yeah, like when you collect information, like
don't
Google
worry,
doesn't
don't-
have a real database that's publicly accessible, but there's a lot you can do with sheets and have them interact with each other that makes them database-like.
Really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gary, can you ask a question?
Yeah.
And probably sure it's a very similar. So, the school teacher, when I was using or Gmail, Chrome.
Okay.
Okay. So I opened this document and I put an email this morning and it showed up in everything else. Would that make guys log on probably on my everything about this?
Yeah, so once a document
I
gets
just
shared with
connected
you,
them.
it's yours, and so they can share it. So if you looked at it in one place, anytime you access your single account, it would say that you're using
Okay, so it's not necessarily because there is a reasonable doc when I said I opened it.
Oh.
You didn't know it? Like,
Oh my God. His darn Harvey.
oh, really?
Yeah, that's the nice
His
thing.
girls
So,
are older, they're
I
rocky.
think we talked about this in the last one.
And then his wife,
Logging
Michelle,
into Google is not necessarily logging into.
that's his wife.
Problem.
Yeah, cool.
Public-
And so you know the girls, Julie and,
Yeah. Computer screens regularly, logging in from is good.
she's an artist.
So they are work at home
Yeah.
at the same time at once, which is nice.
Yeah.
And the first time you do that on the browser, Google will
Yeah.
warn you, hey, should you want to link to this computer? Or do you want to set up a profile?
I love small town health, right?
I know.
Everybody's connected.
Well, not everybody has the same class.
What I do is.
Exactly.
Secure them all.
Yeah, any class he would teach.
That's awesome.
Because I do want to have the same set of arms and stuff.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah, kind of.
When you do it, it'll make sense.
Well, I'm gonna take the class, the non-credit one, so I can go through it, because I know there's tutorials, but.
Yeah,
I
so
don't
there
know
we'll
how
have
to
more
do
time.
it.
Yeah, so we have.
Maybe you have to take the class at set time.
Yeah, right.
Exactly, that is right.
So we'll do 2.5 hours where I'll do
Yeah.
a half an hour, 45-minute intro on something, and then I just want to.
Well, when I saw it, just really, it's like, wow. how come?
Yeah.
I must be logged in, it probably says stay logged in on my,
That's got nothing to do with it. It's just that you did view it, so it's now recent. So anytime you go out to your drive, there's whatever documents that you use.
hey, well, that's cool.
Yeah, it is.
It truly
Thank
is, and
you.
sometimes.
Yeah,
almost
so even,
everybody,
yeah, even on, I mean, if you put the drive out on your phone, it'll show up on these documents. So cool.
Brian has one, that's a Motorola, you just swipe your little finger on it.
Uh-huh.
I kind of don't have a lot, I don't do a lot.
Yeah, it's more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah.
I need to lock mine, and it's like, I had it locked for a little bit when I got this new phone, and it's like, such a bother to go in and unlock it just to check the time.
Yeah. How come the time can't go on, huh?
Well, mine actually can, but it drains the batteries quicker.
Yeah.
If it is connected to any kind of service, you really should have it. So,
Try to always keep it on, but I don't know.
yeah,
But yeah, my kids will be on, it's like, okay, I guess I need to keep it locked, just keep the kids off of it.
right, yeah, no, I'm changing my password because of them all the time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
well, the thumbprint is kind of, I was like, okay, then they can't, they can't copy that.
Yeah, that is nice. Does your phone have the thumbprint verification?
It does,
Oh, that's nice.
so.